All right, if everybody wants to come on in and grab a seat, we'll get the morning's program started. My name's Kyle DeRhodes, and I'm your MC this morning. I'm pleased to welcome you to our community center, and for those of us joining us on Facebook Live, welcome to Kansas City Oasis. We've been around since about 2014. Oasis is the premier secular alternative to faith-based communities, and we welcome all, regardless of beliefs or non-beliefs, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel the human experience is better when it's shared. So welcome, and I'm glad that you've chosen to share your experience with us this morning. So, moving along. Welcome to Oasis. All right, we gather around our 5 core values here at Oasis. They are, people are more important than beliefs. Reality is known through reason. Human hands solve human problems. Meaning comes from making a difference, and be accepting, be accepted. Today, we've got a great program for you. Our featured speaker, Kountz, and Mooney will be informing us about Death Café. I hadn't seen that yet, so kind of excited to see what that's about. Musician is Alber, and our community moment is actually my son, August. So really excited to share the stage with my son on this Father's Day. All right, so first of all, we're going to bring up Alber to give us some musical entertainment on this fine Father's Day. Come on up.
I go by Alber whenever I play this music. I'm an immigrant boy from southern Italy. I ended up here in America for really random circumstances I could have never foreseen. If you would have told me like 12 years ago, being in Kansas City, playing music, I would have laughed at your face. But I found my best possible life or something close to that in here. So I'm really, really, really thankful to be here. I've been a little bit all over, so my music, when it comes to my music, it's a very squashed mix of influences, as it should be for everybody. I'm from a place that it's kind of like the tip of a peninsula, so it's kind of like isolated by itself. Grew up near to the Balkans and all that area of the world, and then I spent a couple years in Poland, of all places. So I went from a very olive trees and cacti type of environment to a frozen wasteland type of thing. And I loved every second of it. And then 10 years ago, for a very, very, very random set of circumstances, I happened to be over here. I've just been chasing music any chance I got. My music has a very distinctive message, which is there is no message. And I feel like in a place like this, now that I'm starting to get closer to this reality, this place is amazing. I feel like it's even a more poignant message in which I am not trying to tell you anything or what to think or what to do. I think about music more as a mirror that you may see something in. So maybe if there is something that evokes a memory in you or that sparks a thought or anything like that, I would like my music to be that for you more than a vessel for a message from me, if that makes sense. Well, enough said. I hope you enjoyed this couple songs. It's a pleasure being with you today.
Should I just keep going?
Thank you, Alber, and we'll bring you up for some more entertainment. But coming up next, we've got some birthday announcements. Terry McNaughton, looks like I am reading really well today. Tara McNaughton, I apologize. And then June 22nd, Connie Arnold. I think I got that one right. There we go. Happy birthday if you see those people around. It's Father's Day. I'm somebody's dad, so today's my day. You can't take the mic from me. Happy birthday to those people, though. And then, does anybody else have a birthday coming up this week that they want to share with us? Completely understandable if you don't. And then life events. So basically, you have something to celebrate, something you want to announce to the community. You need some assistance during a difficult time. Let us know. Obviously, somebody in a yellow lanyard, not this one, can help you with that. So approach our community people with those yellow lanyards if you need something to support or celebrate. We are a community. We're here to support you. And then Thursday, dance classes. Some of my good friends here are putting on some awesome dance classes. If you have the ability to come out, pretty cheap, I think, for dance classes. Honestly, $12. I'm pretty sure that's a huge bargain. But it looks like June 13th, East Coast Swing, June 20th, bachata, and June 27th, also bachata, which I don't know what that is, so I kind of want to see what that is. These are beginner classes, so you don't have to have any kind of experience. You don't even need a partner, it looks like. Just bring $12 and yourself and a positive attitude, I bet. And Will and Julie will show you the magical world of dance. And then Oasis at Third Friday with Ernest James Zydeco Band. Looks like Friday, June 21st, 5 p.m. Social event. Come out and enjoy some awesome music. Oasis favorite, Ernest James Zydeco. He's performed here, I think, several times. They're really good. We'll meet here at the Oasis Community Center around 5 and walk the block to Prospero's. If you can't make it at 5, come find us 2 blocks north on 39th and Bell. And then a week from Wednesday, join us for Julius Caesar at the Heart of America Shakespeare Festival. Attendance is free, although donations are appreciated. Gates open at 6. Show starts at 8. We'll plan to meet around 7, but feel free to arrive, early and look for the small Oasis signs. And I'm sure people will be wearing their Oasis, swag. And then Casey's inaugural book club meeting, awesome. So Oasis is putting on a book club. Start reading now and join the Oasis book club June 30th. Our current book is I'm Glad My Mom Died. Oh, I've heard a lot about this, actually. I've not read this. I'm Glad My Mom Died. The book is a heartbreaking and hilarious memoir by Janet McCurdy about her struggles as a former child actor and how she retook control of her life. So I'm sure people out there have read this book. I have not yet, but now I have an excuse to if I join the book club. And then also mark your calendars, blood drive here at Kansas City Oasis, June 30th. During our service Sunday, the Oasis blood drive's back, basically in 2 weeks. Come on and donate some of your blood to the the blood center. I swear, they use it for good stuff. It's not that. Oh, and then there's a QR code right there if you need to sign up. I'm tech savvy enough to be dangerous, so I'm not sure how that all works, but you scan it and you sign up, I assume. And then this is the thing I'm most nervous about. MCing doesn't make me nervous, but this makes me a little nervous. Community moments. So a community moment is an opportunity for a member of our community to come up and talk about either something they're interested in or a life experience that happened to them. The community moment today is going to be by a young man named August DeRhodes, who I'm extremely proud of, honestly. Maybe it's because we have the same last name. His words, he didn't want to do a warning label, but his 3 words to describe himself are kind, funny, and expressive. So I will bring my son up here to talk about what actually happened at his elementary school recently. And some of you know what's going on here, so this will be interesting.
Hello, this is my experience with Perham Public School. So this is my school at Chapel Hill, and during 4th grade, on the first day of map testing is the Missouri Assessment Program, It is a end-of-year assessment for third grade and up to show student learning. Moving on, everything was normal, but when we were getting ready to begin testing, the vice principal came into our classroom. The teacher said, sorry, the teacher told everyone in the classroom she had invited the vice principal to do a prayer with us. The teacher said if you didn't want to participate, you could go back to your seats. Two others and I went to our seats. The remainder of the 23 kids gathered in a circle on the carpet. The vice principal was going to lead the prayer, but decided to let the teacher lead the prayer with the students. Looking back on it, I personally felt a bit excluded during the prayer. The rest of the day went as expected. When I got home from school, I told my mom that at school the vice principal came into the classroom and did a class prayer. Later, before I went to bed, my mom and dad came into my room and told me what the teacher and vice principal did was illegal. So the next morning at school, I went to my teacher outside the classroom and said, what you did yesterday was illegal. And get this, she proceeded to yell that because she let anyone go to their seats, it wasn't illegal. I felt embarrassed at the moment because the rest of the class heard this. And during physical education or PE, the vice principal pulled me aside and told me she was very sorry if she made me feel uncomfortable. I said I did not feel offended, but my guess is the teacher told her what I had said to her. Before we started testing again, the vice principal came into the classroom again, and we all gathered into a circle. But this time, the vice principal and my teacher said they were sorry if they offended anyone. But the teacher said just because you don't believe in it doesn't make it illegal. What I didn't know was that during the day, the vice principal also called my mom and apologized for praying. She said it wouldn't happen again and shouldn't have happened. She also called every parent in the class and apologized. I went home and told my parents everything that happened my day. My dad had called the vice principal and demanded an apology from the teacher for telling me I was wrong when I wasn't. So the teacher did apologize to me and said she was sorry. She also said her old school did things differently and let teachers pray. It's important to note that at her old school was a public school as well. But personally, I think that if you have an experience like this, if you feel brave enough, you should yell up to the teacher during the prayer and tell them what they're doing is illegal and then make them apologize. Thank you.
Man, I'm pretty proud of that kid. So the gist of the story is he advocated for himself, and I couldn't be more proud of that. But I think the point that we as a family wanted to get across is there's a lot of things going on in public schools. For those of us that have small children in public schools, make sure you're paying attention. Make sure your kids know, especially when stuff like this happens. So anyhow, on a happy note, caffeine. We got our coffee break coming up. So we've got a 20-minute coffee break. Go introduce yourself to somebody maybe you haven't met before. Grab a nice cup of caffeine, and we'll see you back in 20 minutes. Thank you. Three, two, one. All right, yay! All right, welcome back from coffee. Hopefully you got thoroughly stimulated and had a good conversation while you're at it. I'd like to bring back Alber to play another piece for us. Thank you, Alber. And after the last song, I'll kind of have you introduce yourself a little bit again and kind of go over where we can find you, which obviously, if you want to, look him up right there. Next up, we're going to have our featured speakers. Speaker disclaimer that we say. Our program is designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, not as a forum for debates. The following presentation has been prepared by our speaker and not by KC Oasis. Please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, there's going to be a Q&A portion to follow. So let's see here. We have Megan Mooney and Kim Kountz. Kountz? Okay, yeah, I'm really good at mispronouncing names, so it's my strong suit. So Megan is a hospice social worker and bereavement counselor. In 2013, she founded Death Café in St. Joe. She also started running the International Death Café Facebook page. Megan is now the Death Café lead US, Death Café lead US. She went to Hong Kong in 2014 and helped start the first Death Café there. Kim has been working in the mental health field for 7 years and is a grief specialist for 3 years. Kim started participating in the Death Café in 2023. So I guess I'm going to have you all come on up here and tell us more about this. Thank you.
You have the mic.
Hello. I'm Megan Mooney,
And I'm Kim Kountz.
and this is Death Cafe, the new Memento Mori.
Right, and we're going to be covering objectives, talking about what Death Cafe is, which covers the principles, the do's and the don'ts. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Death Cafe history, death taboos, and then we're going to talk about Memento Mori, and then what Death Cafe is today. So what is Death Cafe? At Death Cafe, people, often strangers, will come together to eat cake, have drinks, and discuss death. Our objective is to increase the awareness of death while helping people make the most of their finite lives. Death Cafe is a group-directed discussion of death with no agenda, no objectives, and no themes. It's a discussion group, not a support group or a counseling session. And we want to highlight that because it is literally people just coming together to talk about death and life. It's a discussion. We may provide support, we may share information, but again, it is literally a discussion group. All right, so some principles of do's with Death Cafe is that it's a non-profit basis, meaning that it's free. Anyone can come. It is also an accessible, respectful, and confidential space, meaning what we say here stays here. We have no intention of leading people to any conclusion, product, or course of action. So that means we have a facilitator and we have been facilitators, where we help guide the group discussion to involve around death and living, but we also want to help remind people that when they talk, we want to say, I think this, I feel this, and we help people not push their beliefs on other, because everyone has different thoughts and feelings and opinions, and that's okay, we welcome that, but we also, again, want to remind people that it is to each their own. We always have alongside refreshing drinks, nourishing food, and cake. This is really important because it's life-sustaining. We believe it helps people feel more open to talk about death. It also helps them feel more comfortable. It's having a conversation with coffee. You're having a conversation with death, coffee, and cake. Death Cafe is a social franchise. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in the in the Death Cafe history. But what this means is that people who sign up can guide and do the principle. Those who sign up to do Death Cafe, as long as they follow our principles and guides that we put on the website, deathcafe.com, they are able to actually create and start their own Death Cafe themselves. All right, principles that follow with Death Cafe. Again, this event is free from ideology. It's against Death Cafe principles to lead participants towards any conclusions about life, death, or life after death, apart from your own thoughts. So again, I feel this, I have an idea of this. We're not pushing your beliefs on anyone else, you're leaving an open forum. We've had clients talk about they've had beliefs with dinosaurs after life, or reincarnation, or nothing, and all of that is okay, all of that is welcome. The event should feel safe and nurturing, which includes offering nice refreshments. Again, very important that we have that cake and refreshing drinks. We want to make it comfortable. We want to make it okay. The event should be accessible, respectful for all, regardless of gender orientation, religion, faith, ethnicity, and disability. It's inclusive. It's for everybody and anybody. It does not matter what kind of adult. Everyone is welcome, and we respect that. The event should be confidential. No individual stories should be retold. Again, what we say here stays here. The only time stories can ever be shared is if you get permission of that Deaf Cafe member. It's okay to share that story. We have to get permission before we share any of the information we share here. All right, Deaf Cafes are not the following. Again, it's not a bereavement or a support group. It's a group discussing. The community's coming together to discuss things. We may be supportive towards each other during the discussion, but again, it's not an official support group or bereavement group, and we want to remind everyone that. Sometimes people might come and say, I need resources, and most facilitators will know resources in the community to offer resources after the group if it's needed, but during the group, it again is a discussion, not a support group.
It is okay, though, to come to Deaf Cafe and talk about grief, because that is, of course, a part of death.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be able to be able to discuss your grief and be okay with talking about that.
And that's one of the blessings with Deaf Cafe is it is an open forum that you can talk about your grief. You can talk about your experiences with death. And you can talk about your experiences of life without judgment. It's an okay, safe place to go through that. Deaf Cafe is not intended for children. For anyone who come, we do want them to be 18 and older. It is a place that is not a place to provide specific education or specific topics. We both work in the field with hospice and grief, but we still do not educate. We keep that information to the side. We are there, again, for the group discussion regarding death and life. It's not a sales forum. People do not come and sell items. We do not promote items. Again, it's not for that. And then it is also not organized for sole purpose of research activism or a place to find experts with answers. It's a group discussion. That is the open forum for it. All right, when people talk about death and dying, it tends to illustrate, I can't speak either, so be prepared, their humanity. So this is by John Underwood, who is the founder and creator of Deaf Cafe. I chose this quote because I really love it, because when we're talking about death, it realizes that we are going to die, and life is valued, life is important, but we tend to forget that. We tend to keep moving or focus on our work or focus on certain priorities, but then we don't value what's around us. And so when we talk about death, it helps us be human. It helps us realize what life can mean. And that's what I feel when I read this quote, my biased opinion. All right, talking about Deaf Cafe history. So Deaf Cafe model was created by John Underwood and Sue Barsky-Reed in 2011, which is based on the ideas from Bernard Krestas. She's going to correct me on that. Thank you. The very first Deaf Cafe was actually held in 2011 in John Underwood's basement in London. And it's a voluntary basis. The reason why that is there is no paid staff. Anyone who does a Deaf Cafe is voluntary. We do it because we want to. John and Sue produce a guide to running your own Deaf Cafe, which is started on deafcafe.com. Here you can post your listings for your Deaf Cafe, share your write-ups and your events, and post Deaf Talk. You can also find guidelines how to start your own Deaf Cafe page and check for upcoming events. People are able to search Deaf Cafe near them on the search bar. This, again, going back to it's a social franchise. Anyone can do it as long as you're finding the guidelines and the principles and respecting them as part of Deaf Cafe. Since 2011, there's actually been 19,000 Deaf Cafes in over 90 countries. That's up to date. Lizzie Miles brought Deaf Cafe to the U.S. in 2012, and subsequently hundreds of people have worked to provide Deaf Cafes across the globe. On June 27th of 2017, John died suddenly, and then since then, Deaf Cafe is run by Susan Barsky-Reed, John's mother, and his sister Jules Barsky, and then Megan Mooney is Deaf Cafe lead U.S. and has been running the international Facebook page since 2013. Lizzie Miles, who ran the first Deaf Cafe in the United States, also plays a significant role in the development of Deaf Cafe. Now, taboos of death. The reason why we want to share this is this actually helps contribute to why we do Deaf Cafe. So our society now is much more of a death-denying society than it's ever been in the past. There's quite a revolution going on that turns to the attitudes towards death. Part of the reason is the advances in modern medicine, if you think about it. So there was a time period that people would actually have death or people would die in homes. And then in the last, let's say, over half century, they've shifted to being more in a hospital setting. With the advances in modern medicine, though, that's also shifted our beliefs and feelings about how death, where death is more, used to be viewed as more common, natural, and visible, it's now is distance, and it feels discomforting, where particularly when even talking about it, people will use euphemisms like pass away, departed, kick the bucket, or kick the beckle. I think it's kick the bucket. Sorry, we misspelled some things. Forgive us on that, please. And then often used as avoiding the topic. A lot of times people don't like even using the words death, dying, or dead. They would prefer saying pass away or they're no longer here.
Yeah, I work for hospice, and actually on our medical record site that we use, it doesn't even allow us to put he died. It says they expired. And I'm like, what? I mean, they're not milk, you know? And so I always make a note in there and say the patient died, you know, because I'm dumbfounded by that. I mean, we're hospice, you know, and they still can't say died.
Right.
So yeah, that always gets me.
And a lot of people, that's how they will tell somebody is pass away. But, and again, especially like even children, they don't understand what does pass away mean. And we actually preach in grief to use concrete, direct language. Tell the child to say dead or died, but then as adults, we don't want to. Supporting that taboo. Another part of the taboo that research has shown, mostly in Western societies, that including the US and UK, that death is taboo. People will switch and alter the language that they use. The taboo surrounding death is largely a modern phenomenon. True, we may still celebrate the lives of the deceased loved ones, but topics related to the one's own mortality often socially restricted in everyday conversation. In contrast, centuries of memento mori art and Day of the Dead celebrations in Mexico show that this has not always been the case. There is a huge superstition, though, in our society that when talking about death brings you closer to death. And so people will avoid it at all costs. An example of this, or in Death Cafe, we have a saying, talking about sex won't make you pregnant, and talking about death won't kill you.
Okay. Memento mori. So this phrase, memento mori, is said to have come from ancient Rome. A slave stood behind a Roman general as he paraded through the streets in a victory triumph. He was tasked with reminding the general that the future is always uncertain. Warning, remember that you will die. Today, the term is more associated with artistic expression, and art from this genre serves as a reminder of one's own mortality. Just as memento mori expressions emphasizes mortality and inspire people to lead a more fulfilled life, so too does the modern Death Cafe movement. Memento mori is precisely what Death Cafe has accomplished for thousands of people around the world by allowing them to explore their own mortality.
Again, we're reminding people to make the most out of life, their most finite life.
So COVID, okay. So COVID not only changed the way that we talked about death, but it also changed Death Cafe in a lot of ways. So COVID changed the way that society was talking about and dealing with death. There was no way of denying it. It was in our faces every waking moment. It was on media, it was social media, it was on TV, it was on the radio. Everybody was talking about it to everyone. So, I mean, really, we couldn't deny death. It was essential that Death Cafe have a forum for people to talk. We weren't able to talk in person, so we did it all online, mostly on Zoom. People were able to connect with people in other countries and get a lot of different perspectives. We had, people in China, people in the UK, people in the US. It was really actually pretty cool. It also helped people in the rural communities that didn't have death cafes around them. We really didn't have online death cafes before this, and so we had people in rural communities that really wanted a death cafe but couldn't get to one. We were seeing so much death and people were searching for answers. This caused people to start thinking for the first time in their lives about living wills, having advanced care discussions, funeral planning, having important conversations with their loved ones, would you want to be, hooked up to machines, all those things, thinking about their legacy. People were scared and needed somewhere to talk and found Death Cafe a perfect place to talk with others who were also scared and needed to talk.
Helping the community come together with a discussion.
So we still promoted that people have tea, coffee, cake, any kind of food and drink with them during the online event, because that really is a very important part of Death Cafe. We were getting numerous requests daily for more online Death Cafes to be made, and since I run the online or the international Facebook page, it was just constant. This helped society see that we really needed to start having these conversations, and during this time we had lots of media requests to get the word out on what Death Cafe was and for people to come together. Some people have remained having these conversations, and of course others have went right back into death denial. We still offer numerous online Death Cafes. So Death Cafe today. So how it's effective in society today. So research has shown that having community groups such as Death Cafes, and there's also a huge death positive movement out there, so there's other death positive groups out there.
Mm-hmm.
But having community groups such as Death Cafes helps the community understand the continuation of life and death, reduces fears and anxiety with death, work through ambiguities with death, and how to be proactive regarding death-related decision-making. Research also shows that Death Cafe offers a judgment-free environment for anyone, including grievers, who want to explore the concepts of death. By respecting the Death Cafe principles, Death Cafe participants have shown to draw on many ideas and reveal ways of conceptualizing life after death in various forms without the guidance of religion-based conversations at Death Cafe. And because, there's we don't go there and talk about what we believe life after death in this one way, because people get to explore different views. It's really cool. My dad, for instance, he's not with us anymore, but he, one time, he died.
Yeah, he died. There you go.
I was getting ready to say that, but yeah, he died. He never would talk about death, ever, ever, ever. And so my very first one, he was like, he wanted to come. And I said, Dad, do you know what a Death Cafe is? And he's like, it's like AA, right? I was like, and I was like, no. Because he would never go anywhere longer than an hour, and he never would talk about death ever. So he came, and my aunt came, and my uncle had just died, and I was like, oh, this is going to be horrible. She couldn't talk about him ever without crying. And so I'm looking around, and she's talking about his death for the first time without crying. And my dad's like laughing. I'm like, what is going on here? And a week later, my cousin was trying to get my aunt to move. And I was telling my dad, and he said, well, don't you know that you're not supposed to make any big decisions for at least a year after a big loss or death? And I said, well, yeah, I know that. How do you know that? He's like, the ladies at my table at the Death Cafe. And I was like, well, okay. And but then he came to every single one except for one, because he was in Las Vegas. But he, after that, made all of his plans for his death. All of his funeral songs, everything. And I don't even know where I was going with this is that one time after he's like, do you know, have you ever heard of reincarnation? And I was like, yes. And he's like, well, I met a Buddhist tonight. And he never heard of it. And he was like 60 something, and he never in his life heard of reincarnation or met a Buddhist. And I was like, so I mean, it was that part is really cool, to hear different views from people.
It's really inspiring and it's eye-opening, and that's what we love, and that's why we put those principles at the beginning, and we go over those rules before every Deaf Cafe, because we want people to know it is a safe, open forum. It's a safe environment. We don't push it, we share, but we don't push. And all those different stories that people share, it's incredible. It's a really neat experience, again, that helps you experience life besides start feeling comfortable with the concept of death.
Yeah, and because everybody does respect everybody, you are able to have those conversations. And, he was really blown away by this whole new concept that he never knew.
Right.
But, so that's why, by respecting the Death Cafe principles, you are able to draw in new ideas. Death Cafes are a global social franchise encouraging discussion of all aspects of death, dying, and mortality. Death Cafe's approach is currently used in 90 countries. I said on there, I got to help start the first one in Hong Kong, which was incredible. Lizzie Miles and I went and spoke on the international conference on grief and bereavement. And so it was international. There's people from all other countries, and this guy was so angry, and he was talking in Cantonese, and so we had a translator, and this guy was really angry because they used joss paper, which is paper that you buy for your ancestors that have died, and so he bought him. His family had bought his ancestor clothes, and they bought the wrong size clothes. And so he thought that since they did that, he was not going to get blessed in this life. And just hearing those kind of stories, how it's so different, was so neat to hear those things. But in the different countries that they have it in, like in China and Singapore, like things that you would never think. And when Singapore got started, and I was welcoming them on Facebook, I was like, how's it going? And he's like, have you read the comments on there? They thought they were going to go there and drink, the Kool-Aid and die. But I had people that thought that when I started mine too. I was, okay.
We're still going to live when we talk about death. So
I had this old lady that was just telling everybody at this hair salon about it. But anyways, it allows individuals to discuss difficult topics, increasing their self-awareness, potentially reducing death anxiety, and augmenting compassion, connections through conversation and personal sharing. It brings diverse groups together, helps them gain knowledge on both life and death. It is a positive support for the community by providing a safe place to work through thoughts and feelings around life and death.
it does really bring diverse groups together, because we've had someone who is in their early 20s, and then we have people who are near the end of life who are telling us that they've made these arrangements. And this is really interesting, because someone will be talking about how they plotted it. Someone said, hey, I went and pick out my grave today. It was a really good experience. And then the youngin is just like, what do I need to do to make sure I live a good life? And so it is a very unique and diverse group.
So why people come into Death Cafe? Attendees come for all types of reasons, but they all desire that connection with others to talk about an intimate and important conversation. Many say they have never got to have these conversations before because their families wouldn't let them. They say it was too morbid. I had an attendee one time who came and she was shaking really bad at the beginning. She was in her 60s. And at the end, she came up and thanked me for having this safe place for her to come talk, because she was never allowed to in her family, because she was told it was morbid and they couldn't have those conversations. And these are just some reasons that we've had recently. Their daughter is dying from terminal cancer, and they need to process it. They are afraid of dying. They experience a death or a loss, and they do not have anyone to talk about it to. They want to talk about natural burial options and the plans they have made for themselves. They are taking care of their aging parents. They are trying to hear how others are making the most out of their finite lives. So Death Cafe providing crucial conversations. So an article shared in 2023 about a death cafe in Salem, Oregon, members shared their experiences. So one member shared about their experience of a friend who had a good death. The friend had ALS, a fatal disease that breaks down nerve cells and causes muscle decline. He lived life to the fullest until his death, going to the movies, using a wheelchair-accessible van, and taking a trip to ski in Europe with someone behind steering his chair down the hill. The friend qualified for Oregon's Death with Dignity Act that allows terminally ill people to voluntarily take lethal medications. The friend planned his death for Thanksgiving holiday so he could be around family and so his wife would have company and someone to cook and do yard work in the days afterward. He had a wonderful death. Another member shared how they were able to reconnect with a friend who was terminally ill and how they made great moments before his death. Another member recently finished going through a lifetime of family photos. She mailed some to family, kept those most important to her, and threw away the rest. So at the end of death cafes, we pass out a
Survey questionnaire.
And one of the things we ask is, what words would you use to describe the death cafe? So the most popular words are thought-provoking, interesting, enlightening, inspirational, and fulfilling. And some things people have said they really enjoyed about going to a death cafe are the deep discussion, the humor, met wonderful people, conversation with a diverse group of people, hearing others' perspective, and then this is on another page, but my views on death didn't change, but my views on life did. At the end of a death cafe, I will always ask people, did you have any aha moments? Like, was there anything that really stuck out to you, or like that? So some cool ones that we've had recently is, I come here to remind me to live. And someone else said, I come here to remind me that I'm going to die. And then again, my views on death didn't change, but my views on life did. And we've actually had quite a few people say that.
Yes.
We need the safe place to be able to talk about these types of things. Death Cafe is really helping me to see my life different. I am never so in tune with the truth as during one of these events.
One of these members who did give permission on sharing, they lost a parent, and it changed their whole perspective that they were going to actually live more and appreciate the people in their lives more, because they were so caught up in their work and they were so caught up in responsibilities, which it happens. We're human, we do that. But after losing their parent, they were like, what am I doing with my life? I need to make these moments count, because we never know how long we have with the people we love. And so they've been focusing more on shifting their time with the people they love. And they have come a few times now, and they love sharing, like they have been able to find a positive out of that loss. They've been able to grow and make their life more meaningful, how they describe it, because they want to make life count, because death is always around the corner.
So some common topics that are brought up at a death cafe from the attendees. What does a good death look like to them, and how do you plan for that? What do you want your legacy to be, and how do you start that now? So like by legacy, it could be the relationships with people.
What do I want to leave behind?
Yeah, what do they want to leave behind? How do your views on death inform the way you live? So that could be their beliefs on afterlife, or
even that person's experience of how she was living because of that loss.
Right. So are you really living, or are you just existing? You know, that's a big one. And one of our attendees that comes, that's 20, she really she inspires me, because she comes and she asks people, what should I be doing to live? And she tries to, any chance she can, travel somewhere, or go to a concert, or read this and spend time with her father's a lot older than most, spend time with him, and
She's making most of that finite life.
Yeah, and so, we talk about that a lot. Like, are we really living, or are we just existing, going to work and going through the motions? Bucket lists. So what do we want to do before we die? Are we actually planning them? We're going to do them. Books you're reading on death, and how is it helping you? Or books you're reading on life, how is it helping you? The topic of suicide comes up. People that have committed suicide, how that's affected them. People that have had thoughts of suicide. Death of loved ones and how it's affected them. I mean, there are a lot of topics that come on.
These are just a few.
So Death Cafe St. Joe, that's the Death Cafe I started. Had my first one in February 2013. That's my logo. I don't have a Death Cafe Facebook page for Death Cafe St. Joe right now because it got hacked.
Yeah.
Yay. So I will be working on starting a new one. Yeah, I had it forever too. But I do have a Death Cafe St. Joe Gmail. We have a Death Cafe every third Wednesday of the month, and we have it at Tobin's Coffee Shop in St. Joe. But if you want to contact us, you can at Death Cafe St. Joe at Gmail, or on the main Death Cafe Facebook page. So just a couple experiences from Death Cafe St. Joe that people have told me. I had one member who decided to move and pursue his dream of becoming a comedian because Death Cafe inspired him to make the most of his finite life. And it was really cool to watch him do that. And he unexpectedly died last year, so he got to do that before he died. And then one member, this is actually my dad, he planned his whole funeral down to his pallbearers. He got all of his assets put in place with a TOD, transfer on death, set up his DPOA, did all that, so I didn't have to do that. It was such a blessing. So, and then our conclusion, while there are sometimes tears, most Death Cafes are full of people laughing and having a good time. Because really, death can be funny. I mean,
Yes.
you can have fun talking about death.
It's a good emotional roller coaster of the good and the bad and
Yeah.
all of it together.
I believe that thinking and talking about death helps us to be our authentic selves. I think a lot of the times this is because we are talking with strangers most of the time about an intimate subject, and you're able to take that mask off. You don't have to pretend to be someone else. You can be yourself. It helps us take our mask off and not take things for granted. We're often in such denial about death that we hurry through life and don't appreciate the people in it or life itself.
Right. This is why when we refer to Death Cafe as memento mori, because we're reminding ourselves that one day we're going to die. So again, we need to enjoy our finite lives.
Yeah, and that's why our objective is to increase the awareness of death while helping people make the most of their finite lives. That goes together. At Death Cafes, you get together with strangers and talk about an intimate subject. It brings you closer and can really help you improve your relationships with people if you let it, because you are able to reevaluate a lot of things in your life. Death Cafe can help you look at life from the vantage point of death, for you to see how beautiful it is. And then we will end with this quote from John, founder of Death Cafe. Time is different when you know you're dying. Time matters. Minutes matter. Time is not to be wasted. Sometime soon, there will be no time. Which again goes back to memento mori.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it, and we will take questions.
Yes.
All right. And I saw hands up over here first, so if you want to wait till we get the microphone to you.
Do you know how and why death became so taboo in modern Western society?
Because I think it was Abraham Lincoln was the first person that got embalmed, and that really started that movement. Started the movement of funerals and embalming, and that took death away from the home.
And then I know from research, as we did do some research on a bunch of articles regarding like the history of death denial, and it does actually take place a lot in the last, technically about 100 years, when it did start having medicine advance, and we started moving more things. They started looking at death more as like a disorder or a disease that we should be treated and preventable, when in reality, death doesn't discriminate. Everyone and anyone will die at one point.
But yeah, I know that's what took death from the home was embalming.
Yep.
Do you have any plans of having a deaf cafe here locally in Kansas City?
So I guess there is one here.
I saw there was one, but South Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but someone said that they wanted to have one here. Yes.
Yes, they wanted us to check in at the end who would be interested if you were able to have one at this location, if anyone would be interested.
So,
Which
yeah.
we have a few hands for that.
So yeah, if you're interested in that, I mean, we could come help you start one,
Yes.
and then you guys could take it from there. I mean, anybody can. All you have to have is the desire to talk about death.
And then follow the
And then
guidelines
follow
and principles.
Our guidelines and principles. Can't have an agenda or anything. It's just simply group-led discussion talking about death.
Yes.
I've heard that in some Eastern cultures, they will keep their deceased loved ones in their deathbeds for months at a time and give them ceremonial meals for, in some cases, many months. Do you feel that that's a healthier way to process it than just our Western euphemisms?
I can't judge anyone's what anyone does with their death culture, you know.
Right. I mean, there are so many different cultures out there that have different perspectives and different beliefs. And so it's not our place to judge. We will support, again, if that's their approach to it. We just want to help break that taboo of not talking about it, not acknowledging it, because then that can, in our beliefs, that's cutting people from living. And so we just want to help get through that taboo. But other beliefs and cultures, we will respect what they do.
I mean, I think it's good that they talk about that.
Yes.
My question is, it is so taboo about talking. Even people here have said I shouldn't talk about death. So are most of the people who go there, or do you have a large percentage that go when they find out they have a terminal illness?
I've only ever had one person with a terminal illness come.
We've had a family, though, that had someone who had a terminal illness that they were working through, preparing for that child's death.
Yeah.
And so, but anyone can come, and we're going to welcome that if they want to come and talk about it or go through it. It is that safe discussion group.
One of our members, she is going to become a tree when she dies. She has cremation and has everything planned. And her granddaughter said, well, aren't you scared it's going to happen now that you have it planned?
Yeah.
So, you know, there comes that.
A lot of fear around death. I have a daughter who's been coming to a death cafe for she's been there 3 times, and I think she gets a lot out of it. So
Yeah.
I wondered why the 18-year-old age?
Because we had a really bad experience with kids coming, and there was this really bad article out of Florida with this kid screaming, I don't want to die, and it was just really, it was bad. And it really takes a special person to be able to work with kids with death. John and I had talked about maybe me doing one, but we ended up not doing one. So that's why it's really not for kids. And a 17-year-old, that's fine. But yeah, kids absolutely should be taught about death. And there's a lot of groups like that we have in St. Joe that they're taught about death. But they shouldn't be little kids shouldn't be having those conversations with adults at the same time. It's our belief.
I guess I have a question, and I'm the MC, so again, you can't stop me. Just out of curiosity, people do experience like traumatic death situations, like maybe in the line of work, like a work situation or something like that. Do people, that have experienced stuff like that come to these and find some community there with that?
Yeah. Yes. I was like, we had someone who was telling Kansas City, what was it, Crown Center, that had that horrible accident in the 70s. They actually were sharing their experience of being there. Again, it's a welcome forum for all. We will check in at the end if they need any additional resources. Yeah. We will offer that support because, again, it's out there. We don't do it during the group because it's a group discussion, but anyone is welcome, whether it's traumatic or normal.
We had someone our last time who had a very traumatic experience and told her story, and afterwards, and she cried, and afterwards she said, we need a safe place like this to be able to talk about these kind of things.
Yeah.
But everybody was very supportive of her.
We just listen. That's the thing. We're not, it's again, non-judgmental. So you can express anything you're feeling. You can express anger, you can express numbness, happiness. We are just there listening because this is a discussion.
We don't try to fix anyone.
No, that's not our job.
Just support,
Excellent. Well, and I think we'll have more questions afterwards if you ladies will stick around for us. But yeah, there will be some more opportunities for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. You do this? There you go.
Alrighty, so one of my takeaways from that speech was everything's better with cake. So I'm going to use that as maybe coffee too. I'm going to use that as a segue to, you might have noticed that we were missing some donuts earlier, so we need volunteers for Oasis. So there's sign-up sheets back there. There's even a TV above the main door there where you can sign up for either the blood drive or donations, stuff like that. But be sure to take a look out there. We definitely need some volunteers to help today, maybe cleaning up, and you can find people with yellow lanyards if you're not sure what to do, but we will definitely take your volunteer ism. Donations, we're a 501c3, so feel free to scan the QR code and donate to us. It goes to support our great facility and the wonderful things that we do with Oasis. Monthly reoccurring donations are, ideal. They just kind of give us a jumping off point of, how much money we know is coming in. So if you can afford to do that, please do so. And then I'm going to bring our musician up one last time here, Alber. Maybe. Oh, I don't know why I'm looking for Jay's. I have the thing. Thank you. So we always like to kind of interview the musician a little bit. So maybe Alber, you can tell us a little bit about like your influences, and then I'm sure people probably want to catch some more of this. So where can we find you playing here in the near future?
Yeah, so I'm about to actually leave town for a while. Next week I'll be on the East Coast touring, so very much anticipated couple shows. But you can follow me on social media where I'll post absolutely everything you need to know about where you can find me next. Actually, as a matter of fact, if anybody is free later today, I will not be playing this music, but there will be a parade at Gillen Park. Has to do with Pride. I will be with a second line band playing some sweet old New Orleans jazz, so it starts at 3. I know that that's like short notice, but
Oh, that's great. I'm
it's
always down
happening
for
later.
jazz.
So yeah, definitely playing as much as possible in town. My music is a blend of many different influences. So I really grew up going to music school, so I have a pretty strong classical music background. So there's definitely a deep connection with history. At the same time, I love electronic music and I love jazz, right? And world music and all sorts of influences. So I like to not really think too much about it and just whenever I hear a sound that I like, I just try to incorporate it as much as possible.
It was really great. So thank you for
Thank you
coming
so
out and
much, Brandon.
sharing. You're the first trumpet player I've seen with like a DJ mixing booth, so I knew we were in a treat. So yeah, make sure you check out Alber's music and follow him. And it sounds like he's going on tour, so if you've got time, you could probably follow him around to the East Coast. That might be fun.
Say hi if you do.
And then we've got our lunch coming up. So let's see here. Strange Chef Collective on the Plaza. It's a chef-driven food hall, so there's a bunch of restaurant options. You should be able to find something that'll fit your palate. Address is up there, so look for people in yellow lanyards or Oasis t-shirts. You know, gather around some tables and continue our conversation there. Furthermore, we've got definitely, pick up after yourselves. We definitely could use some volunteers to help us clean up today. There's, again, sign-up sheets, see people with yellow lanyards. Definitely volunteer to keep the place nice for us. And then next Sunday's featured speaker is going to be Neil Engel and Reflections from a Liberal Pastor. And then the musician will be Julia Wildstar. So come join us next week for that. Should be a good time. Oh. And then also it looks like we've got somebody coming from Micah Ministries. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, so Neil Engel, sorry. Okay, here we go. So Neil Engel is going to join us. He's been working for Micah Ministries for the last 15 years, and I guess that's really the point that I missed there. So excellent. Everybody have a great Father's Day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be good.